All right, we're rolling. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the apartment, the home studio. This is the reverse angle. This is what I see all the time. I know it's been a while. Hope you're all doing very well. My Ticket Home came out with some new songs the past couple weeks. We did Tear Joint first and Urethane second. And first of all, thank you so much to everyone who's been listening. It's been so much fun releasing this stuff, and feels really good to have it out there. So I've had a few comments of people asking me how we are making this record, because it's fully independent, fully self-produced. We're just doing it, between our own home studios, between me and each of the guys. So today we're gonna do a walkthrough of like my vocal chain. Everything that I'm using to record vocals. We'll go through the gear and the plugins and the effects and stuff that I'm using. The main reason I kind of want to go over this is just to kind of share with people that you don't need the craziest gear to get a decent product. Like, my vocal chain is something that I'm still working on and that I still want to improve. But what I've used so far between My Ticket Home and Head Cave, I think is very accessible and affordable gear. It's not anything crazy. You don't need the nicest stuff to get your music out there, and you shouldn't let that hold you back if you don't have nice stuff. So we're gonna flip the world, and we'll go into the Pro Tools session for some of the new My Ticket Home songs, and I'll show you guys the gear and the plugins that I'm using on the vocals. So here we go. All right, so let's talk vocals. Let's talk vocal chain. Just kind of starting with the microphones. I've used a handful of different mics since I've really been recording myself and, self-producing and releasing my own music. In the beginning, you just start with whatever you have, right? There are so many mics to choose from, and obviously the really, really nice ones, your Neumanns, your AKGs, your Telefunkens, they all sound incredible. If all of us could record on those in our home studios, I'm sure that we would. But we're not, or at least I'm not. So, and I think that's what's cool. That's kind of the point of this video. For the first couple of Head Cave records that we did, I was doing all the screams on an SM58, a Shure SM58, and all the singing was actually on this microphone right here, which is a Rode NT1A. Nothing, again, it's not about the specific microphones. It's really about more the concept of, it doesn't have to be all that nice for you to make music. So on the new My Ticket Home stuff, it was all Shure SM7B for the vocal mic. Actually, this microphone right here, the Shure SM7B. Me and this mic, not this one in particular, but these mics in general, have not always gotten along. When I was doing the earlier Head Cave records, I really liked recording handheld. I really, really liked holding the 58 and doing the screams that way. And so I thought if I got this, I'd be able to simulate that of holding it, and it'd be a little bit of a step up from a 58, but I could still hold it and get that feeling. And I tracked a couple songs that way, and it's just not the same, because it's just kind of awkward to hold, But I put it on a stand, like a mic stand, and I just got used to it. And then I really liked it because it handles plosives really, really well. Like, this pop filter does a surprisingly good job. So I never felt the need for an external one, which is actually really nice, because my personal style is I get right up on the mic. I like to be touching it with my face. And anytime I'm recording with an extra pop filter or anything like that, I always find myself bumping into it and pushing it around. And you can just be really, really aggressive with this thing. So I did the whole My Ticket Home record on this microphone, and this is the mic. Into the Scarlett Solo by Focusrite for the preamp. The trusty big red Scarlett. That's right. I switched from Mac to PC for video editing purposes, and all of the audio interfaces that I was using on my Mac set up previously were incompatible with Windows. I borrowed this Focusrite that's sitting right here on my desk. I'll show you. I borrowed this from Nick DePiro from Head Cave. Just planning to use it for a week or two, you know, just give me some time to switch over to something else. And it's been, you know, it's been my main interface for like a year. And I wish I could, you know, hate on it, but I can't, man. I mean, the technology has gotten so good that even like these, you know, entry-level budget interfaces, you can get away with a lot. And don't get me wrong, I know these recordings aren't, you know, world-class, elite level, but that hasn't stopped anybody from listening to the song or liking the song. So let's open up the Pro Tools session for some of these new My Ticket Home songs that just came out. That feels fucking good to say. And I'll show you guys the vocal chain on it. I've upgraded a couple things since then, and you know, like I said, always trying to add and improve. But this is what we had at the time, so this is what we used to make them. All right, let's listen to some vocals. Okay, so when I started working in Pro Tools, the first sets of plugins that I bought was a subscription to Stephen Slate. It's like a monthly subscription, and you get a whole bunch of different plugins within it. It's kind of like the Waves suite or the UAD suite, but this is just the one that I grabbed. So in this one plugin, you basically have like a channel strip, and you can put a bunch of different inserts, you know, in there as you see fit. So this is the effects chain for the vocal, and let's go through it. It goes from left to right, you know, in the order of the signal, left to right. So the very first thing is like a preamp saturation or a preamp overdrive. This is just adding color and harmonics to the signal. Especially with screams, the main thing you're trying to you know, capture is the natural distortion and noise and timbre that your voice creates while you're screaming. And oftentimes adding a little bit of saturation, adding a little bit of distortion helps to embellish all those different frequencies and stuff that you're trying to make. And then we've got a Neve style EQ that's right here. So all I'm doing is high shelf 2 dB, upper mid 1.4, and then just a little bit of high pass filter around 80. And then after that, we've got an LA 2A style compressor right here into an 1176 style compressor right here. The way I think of it is you can, if you use two compressors, each compressor doesn't have to work as hard, and you can actually get more focus and more control of your dynamics without the negative characteristics that come from hitting a compressor too hard. So like sometimes you want to hear the compressor working, you want to feel it pumping, you want to feel that flex, you know, that happens. And sometimes you want it to feel a little bit more natural, but you still want the vocal to be super controlled. So if you use two compressors, you kind of get the best of both worlds. Check. Oh yeah, here we go. All right, so I think maybe instead of me talking about every piece, let's just turn them off, and then you know, we can start adding them one by one.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice, you know. Tell me, was it worth it to suffer alone? I gave you blood, laced with power.
That's raw with nothing on it. Let's go in our plugins here. Let's just add this first one, which is our you know, preamp saturation simulator.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice, you know. Tell me, was it worth it?
Right, that's obviously full on distortion right there. But when you bring it back
to chase the purpose. How better the choice, you know.
And you'll be able to hear that effect more as we start adding the compressors and the EQs and stuff. But it's just something that I kind of like, I know I'm gonna want, because you know, the modern digital recordings, they're so clean, they're so sterile that sometimes you want like that little bit of extra dirt. Let's pop the EQ on. This should just be a little bit of high-end lift, which, you know, the Neves are known for having like a really nice high shelf. So let's hear what this sounds like. So off.
Back to chase the purpose.
On.
Back to chase the purpose. How
really actually is doing a lot. It's bringing out the consonants and the pronunciation a lot. I'm actually really surprised. Like for 1.5 dB on the upper mids and 2 dB on the high end, makes a big difference in my opinion. All right, cool. Let's get to the good stuff, the compressors. To me personally, this is like one of the things that makes the biggest difference for how I feel when I'm tracking and how I feel about vocals in the mix. It gives me freedom to not have to worry about my volume and the performance as much. And I don't know, I love the way it feels when you just lay in to a compressor and it just responds in this nice way. So this first one is like a LA2A style clone. So here's off.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the
And then we'll go on.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know.
Now that, in my opinion, is making a big difference, right? Like obviously we're hitting it pretty hard. The VU meter says around 10 dB a gain, but the way it feels, I'll play it again.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know.
So for me, right, the way that feels as far as like the aggressiveness that it gives the vocal, right? It feels like I'm like spitting the lyrics in your face. Like, the consonants, the pronunciation, the way it handles the transients of the voice, everything. Like compression to me makes the biggest difference on screams. This is like the sound is my favorite thing. So like I said, we're using 2 compressors. So we'll go from the LA2A into the 1176 style clone. I guess let me go over the settings. So it's a super simple compressor. You've got your peak reduction, which is your amount of compression. You have your makeup gain, which is how loud you boost the signal afterwards. You've got a mix knob, which is just the wet and dry blend of the effect. And then there's a couple knobs down here, which it's kind of annoying how they design these, but you have like this little screw that it looks like a screw that you would turn with like a flathead, which is how some of the hardware was made. But it's kind of annoying because you forget that this is really there. So this little screw basically determines whether you want to compress, the whole frequency spectrum evenly, or if you want to let a little bit of the low end go through and not trigger the compression as hard. But for the vocal, I just left it on flat 100%. And then this switch right here, you can change it from a compress mode to a limit mode. To be honest, I'm really not sure if this actually will act like a brick wall limiter, but I've always just left it as a compressor setting. And then stereo link, doesn't matter for us. This is a mono signal, but if you wanted each side to be compressed differently, you could turn that on or off. So mono source, single vocal, doesn't matter. Let's go on to the next compressor. This is our 1176 clone. We've got the blue stripe, and I'll do some A/B. I'll play you with and without, and you can hear the difference.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know.
So in my opinion, it's not really giving me that much more noticeable of a effect as far as the compressor goes. But I think it's locking the vocal even more in place, which is really the main goal of why I want to compress this. Is when there's all this extra stuff going on in the mix, I want the vocal to be, reliably kind of in the same place. This is like an 1176 style clone, very famous compressor, probably one of the most famous compressors, known for being very, very fast, very snappy in its response. You've got your input and your output gain. So the way this compressor works is, rather than deciding your overall amount of compression, you have what's called a fixed threshold, and then you determine how much input signal you put into that threshold. So think of it like, say the threshold is here. If your signal is only hitting here, you're not going to get any compression. So rather than bringing the threshold down, you end up, you turn the signal up to meet the threshold, and that's where you start getting the compression. So if I play with this, you'll just start to hear. Let's mess with it.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know.
So you can see there, I'm turning it up, and it's just burying the needle, right? We're just getting even more compression at this stage.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know. Tell me, was it worth it?
So you can hear like every little breath it's just absolutely slammed. I actually think it sounds kind of cool. Like you can hear even like the stuff between the words, right? This breath at the beginning of the take is now way louder.
Back to chase the purpose.
Right? Versus without.
Back to chase the.
Look at that, right? Now, obviously, this is an extreme amount of compression, but in a metal rock mix, it sounds kind of badass. I think I had the input set roughly around here, though. So let's hear this.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know.
Right, so that's giving us that same feeling a little bit more reasonable, right? And the reason, like I said, the reason for using 2 compressors is you can get that ultra glued, ultra compressed sound without it feeling obvious. Like it's not distracting that you just slammed one compressor.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know.
Like even there, right? Like I'm slamming it all the way, like we're at 20 dB, but there isn't that characteristic, that glue that you get from a double compressor, because each one has its own, you know, response circuit, its own attack time, its own release time. When you stack them up, I feel like that's where you really just get the coolest sound.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know.
And the 1176 is known. It's not a transparent compressor, right? It adds a character. So again, just running through the knobs real quick. Input and output gain is, you know, this is where you set how hot you want to come into the compressor, which affects how much gain reduction you get. The more your input comes in, the more gain reduction you're going to get. And then you compensate for that with the output gain. So sometimes you got to bring it up, sometimes you bring it down. Depends on how hard you want to hit it. And then your attack and your release time is how quickly does the effect engage once you hit that threshold. Generally speaking, most people like a little bit slower attack and a very fast release on this compressor. So 3.7 is like a common go-to, everybody uses it. With a little bit slower attack, the consonants get through a little bit so you can hear the words and they're really legible. And then you want to release quickly so that by the time the next word comes back up, the compressor is back to 0. So think of it kind of like a basketball dribble, right? Like you want to find like that exact moment where the compressor can kind of like ride and bounce with the vocal.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know. Tell me, was it worth it?
So you're relatively obviously not getting all the way back to 0, but it's able to move and flow with the vocal, right? Versus if it's like super slow release.
Back to chase the purpose. How better the choice you know.
See, what happens is it hits the compressor and then it just stays there, right? It doesn't come back up quick enough. So as far as the main vocal chain, the main vocal settings, it's just these 4 things, right? Saturation, EQ, compressor 1, compressor 2. That's it. I almost forgot. There is one more thing. The one more like little secret sauce, I guess you would call it. There is one thing I do that's on all the vocals, and that is a parallel distortion. The idea is you take a signal, you split it off into a copy of itself, and then you process the copy differently, and then you blend that copy back into the original. Versus if you were to slap a distortion on the main vocal, you'd really hear that and feel it. But when you blend that distortion in up underneath, it's just my favorite thing so far. So I've been doing that on all my tracks for a while, and yeah, that's probably one of the more, like, I guess, unique ways of how I'm treating these vocals. All right, folks, here it is, the Mac Daddy, the distortion plugin that you want, that you need. You know, I've said before, like, oh, it's not about these specific things or that specific things. For this one, it is. There are a lot of other distortion plugins that are great. You don't have to get this one. But I remember when I first found this thing, like getting this really great, harmonically satisfying distortion. I'll play them and then I'll start raising the distortion up. I'll raise it up higher than I normally would, but I'll just bring it up so you can hear the effect.
Gave you blood laced with power, power laced with pain. Dreaded my teeth from the jaws of the beast. Give a fuck.
All right, so obviously that's higher than I had it, right? But it just shows you what that effect does as you bring it up. So normally I have it around like minus 20, something like that.
Back to change the purpose. How better the choice you know.
And then with.
Back to change the purpose. How better the choice you know.
It's just that extra bit where it just locks in and it just keeps it right in one place. I love it. And I think that's all of the settings on the whole track. We went through saturation, EQ, compression, parallel distortion. This is how I recorded everything at the time. Let's do one last listen. Let's hear it with the with everything on. Alright, so hopefully that was helpful. I know personally, for me, I still have plenty of things that I want to upgrade on my vocal channel. You know, I've got a lot of friends who are successful in music who have some really nice home studios, and you know, I watch videos on YouTube or on social media of the different setups people have, and I get jealous, you know, just like anybody else. But it's something to aspire to. It's something to be, you know, turned on and excited by. And you know, I definitely have my short list of the things that I'm going to change and upgrade first. But in the meantime, you know, that's not going to stop me from recording or writing new songs. And I don't think it should stop you either. So that's kind of pretty much the main reason I wanted to make this video. Hopefully it was interesting. If there's anything else you guys would like to see, maybe like a full mix session or any kind of like songwriting stuff, let me know. Happy to make more of these videos. I miss it. And yeah, like I said, thank you all so much again for the feedback on the songs. It feels fucking great, and can't wait for the next one. All right, I love you all. Take care. Peace.